Book 2, welcome to Jack's Literary Corner. I am Jack, and I want to talk to you guys about something, just chat about something that has been on my mind since watching Daniel Green's video where he talked about this very thing, and that is book adaptations. I feel like that is gotta be the hardest thing to do, to adapt. I mean, unless it's like a romance novel, I think, like, romance, especially rom-com books that are like romantic contemporary books that are like rom-coms, I think, or if it's a book that is like a lot shorter, I think, those are probably the easiest. Like, I just finished where is it? I just finished reading Misery last night, and look how short this book is. It's like, let's see. Although it was very weird, but on Goodreads, the length of pages it said was different from the number of pages my edition has. And that one, but it's the same cover, and I think it's also paperback. But mine is like, I mean, granted, maybe they were counting like all the pages like about the author and acknowledgements page. But I think there were like 368 or something, and this only goes up to 351. I think I'll have to look at it again. But this is not that long of a book, and it will probably be and I imagine it's probably one of the easier books to adapt by Stephen King. The plot is very simple. This famous writer gets kidnapped by his number one fan, and she basically tortures him and convinces him that his new manuscript that he wanted to publish, that is something that he was passionate about and he really thought had literary merit. She makes him destroy it, and then she essentially, by the way, I'll talk about this book more in a little. I'm probably, now I'm finished, I can film a review on it, but, and she, basically convinces him to write a new novel for a story that he tried to get rid of, to end. And he did end it, but she was like, well, no, you're not doing this, you're not killing my beloved character. So I'm gonna make you write a return of this character, and then until you write it, you're stuck with me. So it's it's a simple plot. He's her prisoner, he's her hostage, she tortures him. There's probably the hard part is some of the things that she does to him is probably the most challenging, and some of the hell he goes through. All the physical hell he goes through, that's probably the hardest thing to do. So it's more the hard thing is the emotions. But it's not that long of a book, so it's easy to adapt. I mean, obviously there were some changes made. There's a very famous scene that people always talk about that is different in the book compared to the movie version, which I have not seen. But that brings me to another point. It was very interesting I told my friend, I was like, I just finished the book and everything. And obviously she knows that it was adapted into a movie. And her first question is the movie at least decently, accurate to the book? Which I think is incredibly sad. Now, most people will probably say, oh, it's Hollywood's fault. And yeah, technically, they're the ones who make the decisions. Of course, people say, well, not technically, they do make the decisions. But the problem is that, yeah, this is not that long, and it's probably very easy to adapt. But there's some things that don't translate well on TV. And then if a book is longer than this, it would probably be harder to adapt. That's why sometimes I think that especially in the fantasy world, when there are series, they need to be turned into a TV show rather than a movie, because you have more time to develop the story and you don't have to condense it as much, which is one of the limitations of the on-screen adaptation is especially if it's a movie, they have to condense it. Not everything translates well on screen. You know, and it has to have a universal appeal. They're not just pleasing a select group. They want a bigger audience. They're trying to please a bigger audience that might potentially like this genre and this story. And I imagine, like, that's what part of Peter Jackson's excuse, that, you know, because I know a lot of people criticize The Hobbit. I don't know why, and I'm almost afraid to, because I know I can be irrational about this and get very sensitive, especially if it's something that I really enjoy. Then I'll act like an immature fan girl and be like, how dare you? You know, and I'm not thinking clearly. Like, I'm not considering, okay, they make a good point and make a good argument. And, I mean, and I think World Hoppers had mentioned their issue, like Daniel Green mentioned his issues on World Hoppers with The Hobbit, and I think it was on World Hoppers. It might have just been on his channel where he talked about it, but it did make, actually, yeah, it might have just been his channel where he was talking to someone else about adaptations, and I think his reasons did make sense. Like, I understand them. I don't entirely agree with them, but I do, you know, but I think Peter Jackson was trying to please a bigger audience. Plus, there's that one thing that everybody loves, which is money. Everybody needs it, and everybody loves it. And he knew that, of course, expanding it, even if that wasn't necessary, which is one of Daniel's reasons that it was unnecessary to expand it into 3 movies. I mean, it's a business, first and foremost. So yeah, he was expanding the book into 3 movies because he would make money, because people would still go see it, even if they weren't happy with the whole 3rd movie, because they would feel like they have to see what happens. They would have to know how it ended. Or people that, even though they know how it ended, they probably still at least wanted to see it, because for nostalgia purposes, for the fact that they just had to see it because they love it so much. But so yeah, it's still a business, you're still making money. And with movies, I think a lot of people like J.K. Rowling, one of the reasons I'm sure she probably made, which Books and Looks kind of, on their comment on one of my videos, they did talk, you know, I think, I don't know if it was him or her, had said, kind of explained in their comment why they think it might have been, or my reasons they don't necessarily agree with my reasonings for why J.K. Rowling chose to make it a movie rather than a TV show. But basically, I think it would have been a better TV show. The problem, though, is I think with a movie, you get a bigger budget. So you have more money to do all the special effects, create all the creatures and all that kind of stuff. And it had a better chance of reaching a wider audience. With a TV show, which, funnily enough, I feel like TV shows and streaming networks is where a lot of fantasy is heading now. Because it does better, you know. You can, like I said, you can expand and develop everything more. And you could add stuff if you want to. Or you can take, you know, you'll still take stuff away because it doesn't translate well. So it's just interesting because I feel like as soon as a beloved book is going to be turned into a movie, all of a sudden people are going to be apprehensive. Or even when a beloved original movie is remade. Because, like, even I was apprehensive about when it was remade. And people have issues with the whole the live action versions of Disney movies. I mean, in fact, one of my favorite reviewers who does, like, all these discussions, I don't remember her channel, you know, she had a criticism video of Beauty and the Beast, but because that's a beloved story to me, I didn't watch her video where she talked going by the title, so I don't know what she's going to say in the video because I didn't think I could handle it, and I think I would get all irrational and stuff. Not that I would comment. I don't comment to these people. You know, I rant to myself or to my friends, but I don't directly message them. I'm not one of those internet trolls who says things, you know, I'm like, how dare you, what's wrong with me, you know, F you and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that because I'm too much of a chicken to do that, no matter how angry I get. But, yeah, according to her video, I don't think she was pleased with the live action. She thought it was unnecessary. I mean, I don't even know if she's being sarcastic or snarky in the video, or if she makes a good argument, because I know I'm a sensitive person, and that's being nice to myself. Calling myself sensitive. But, I mean, of course, now we're talking adaptations based on, like, books and And like I know like another example, and then there's also like I remember that Wicked was adapted, and hasn't been adapted into a movie or TV show, but it was adapted to a musical, and those are very different things. And sometimes, like, the book is much darker, and the play is kind of lighter. It still has the same basic story, like Elphaba, this girl was born, but she got, she thanks to this magical elixir, she was born green. She goes to school. Her sister her sister, she, all these things happen. She's bullied and stuff, but somehow she ends up making friends with Galinda, or Galinda. Her, the story of how her sister became the Wicked Witch of the East, and how Elphaba made the white slippers for her sister so that so that she could actually watch because they were magical, and all that stuff was in there, but there were some differences, like there's more political intrigue in the book. And it's a very darker, grittier story, while the musical is more fun and, about feeling good and being yourself and figuring out who you are and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very different story. And I think one of the biggest problems is that people sometimes forget that adaptations are oftentimes a different medium from a book. Like, and again, like I said, some things don't translate, and the budgets are, with books you can do almost anything. You're only limited to how long your agent gives you before you have to publish the book, and the page numbers, and then of course you gotta sleep, and you gotta eat. So, your daily day-to-day activities that don't involve writing that you have to do. So there's no limit, there's no budget limit, there's no, it's just you and your imagination. And the on-screen adaptations or even a stage adaptation is very different from a book. You're limited. You have a certain amount of money you can spend, and you can't just focus that spending on one thing. You have to use it for everything in the project, and again, you have to please a universal audience. And there's also there's just certain things that you can't do with characters, or certain things that actors don't want to do for their characters. Like, context can be kind of hard to deal with, and not everyone wants to dye their hair, and it takes a lot longer for your hair to grow. And you can't always cast. It's mostly about the performance. Does this actor portray the character correctly as far as their actions and their personality, how they do things? And unfortunately, people do get obsessed with the physical appearance of a character. Like, saying that, Harry has green eyes, and the actor does not. Daniel Radcliffe does not have green eyes. And they originally did give him contacts that were green, but it irritated. He had a bad reaction. And that's not his fault. That's just how he was born. And they're not going to replace him with someone that has green eyes because he was the best actor for the role. Which I think is one of the things that the movies did great, was the casting of the actors. For, the kids, and then the adult characters. Like, everyone's favorite, Alan Rickman as Snape. I may not love his character all the time, but that was great casting. That Alan Rickman, I agree, is a great actor. May he rest in peace. Because sadly, he has passed. And like I said, the kids, even though they're still kids, they still did a great job. Now, I'm sure they're professionally trained, I think, although for some of them, this might be their first movie role. And then there's the fact that there is no way a filmmaker can read the mind of the fans. They do not know what the fans are thinking. And of course, everybody has a different imagination. Everybody pictures things differently. No matter how much the writer describes that character, you still picture it differently than everybody else. But the people who make these TV shows and movies, or even make a stage show, if it's, by chance happens to be play, they can't read your mind. They have no way of knowing what you're picturing. And then there are so many people that had so many different ideas of what something looks like in the story that you couldn't, there's no way, even if by some chance, like they're a filmmaker had the ability to read people's minds, there's no way they can include everybody's image, and they have to please a wider audience. So there's no way they can know, even if they were psychic and could read people's minds, there's no way they could please every single person. I mean, that's the excuse that all writers have, and it's true. And of course, there are some situations where I kind of roll my eyes at that excuse. Like, the show I used to mention back in the beginning, Once Upon a Time, I had a lot of issues with that show, and the direction the show went. I thought there was blatant favoritism on the show. The writing was not that great. And, of course, I stopped watching after season 3 because I couldn't take it I could not go on and take it after season 3. So you can say, well, then how do you know you didn't watch Beyond It? It was so great before, which I'm probably never going to watch it. Maybe one day when I'm old and gray, maybe one day I'll sit down and watch it if I have access to it. But right now, I have no interest. But the writers would constantly use that excuse, and to me, that in that case, it did come off as a lame excuse, because to me, they were able to please certain groups of fans that agreed with them, that were fans of the character of Hook. And yeah, I'm talking about Captain Hook. He was on the show as this pretty bad boy pirate. And I think I would have liked him better if they didn't try to make the direction they took him in. And then I think they definitely were willing to please the fans of Regina, which she is a great character, and I still love that character. But, again, I had issues, and then with that character. So in that case, I thought it was just an excuse. But it's a very accurate, most of the time, and granted, I could be very much biased, and I do agree that it's a hard thing to do, is that you're never going to please everybody. I do agree and believe that's true. You're never going to please every fan. It's a challenge that these people are never going to meet. And I feel, and again, we need to remember that not only that, but that there are limitations. That, they have a certain amount of budget. They can't, make everything exactly like what it is in the story. They can't include everything because it doesn't always translate. Adaptations are always a tricky thing to do. And, I definitely feel sorry for those people who choose to do it. There's always that fear of that people are not going to be happy with your interpretation. And there are some of them that weren't interpreted, that did not do well universally. I think Aragorn, that YA series, about the boy and the dragon, which I personally loved it. I thought the adaptation was good, but I don't remember the book that well, but I remember loving the book in the series, although I never finished it. I don't know if I ever will. But, and then the Golden Compass one did not do well. I had a good time with that movie, but in another situation where I don't remember the book that well. So I don't know how accurate it is. But it was but it did not continue because the movie did not do well. The adaptation did not do well. But that's, I would be scared to get involved into that if I ever did write and publish a book. If I was successful enough and my book was popular enough that they optioned it for a movie or a show, I'd be very nervous because I know how critical fans can be. And there's no way they could adapt it perfectly to what I had in mind. I think that it's easier, especially if it's fantasy. I definitely think it's easier to adapt something that is not fantasy. But at the same time, I don't want them to stay away from fantasy. And I have a soft spot for adaptations either way. Because it's nice to have it. To actually have an on-screen version. Not just your own imagination, but an actual visual of it that someone else created. I think that is really awesome. Like, I really appreciate that there were Harry Potter movies, even though I think that there could have done better as a TV show. And I'm trying to think. I am one of those few people apparently who does love the Hobbit movies, and so does my best friend Terry. We both love them, and everybody loves the Lord of the Rings movies. And I'm sorry, this may be blasphemous, but I do think the movies were more appealing. The Lord of the Rings movies were more appealing, and I could get into those. I'm sorry, I know people can't fathom this, but I just could not get into the books, the original trilogy. I tried to, but I couldn't. Now, it doesn't help that I saw the movie first. I feel like sometimes when I see on-screen adaptations, I'm thinking, oh, I already know the story, so I don't need to read the books. And I know other people would disagree with me because there are so many things in the books that can't be in a movie for the the reasons I said. So, yeah, it would be, but it's too much. It's a challenging read that I'm not in the mood for a challenge to meet. I mean, as I said before, I do have the audiobooks on my Amazon wish list. But so I just feel, and I feel like those those people that are known as gatekeepers of fantasy, they are always saying, oh, you have to read Lord of the Rings. If you don't read Lord of the Rings, you can't call yourself a fantasy fan. So basically, because I didn't read Lord of the Rings, all the other fantasy books I read do not count. That I'm a false fan? That is stupid and unfair. But anyway, so we're not, like I said, we're going to talk about adaptations. And I still always look forward to an adaptation of one of my favorite books. I will always look forward to that, and I always be excited about that. But there is a risk with adaptations, and it's, you just pray that they'll get as close as they can, and remember, it's a different medium. But either way, it makes a very interesting discussion and a debate, I feel like. So, this is my rambly chat on adaptations. We'll love to hear your guys' thoughts on adaptations, and feel free to share in the comments below. And if you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up and click subscribe if you have not done that already. And I will talk to y'all later and hope you are enjoying your reading. Bye!